with the public service and the European project, they are similar because it's a continuous activity. It's a continuous thing that we are working on for the common good. And so I would say these are the three main matters that drive my participation in the political field. Knowing that, being in politics, we have the responsibility to not forget the common good, but knowing that if we are private citizens, we can also contribute for the community. And so, but this is, sometimes we feel the appeal to work for the community, and so far I have been trusted with this responsibility that I'm very pleased, and as I said, politics is to serve, and this is what I'm doing in as long as I am in political functions, but also in my life.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Yeah, I think what struck me at the beginning, you also said curiosity, because I think that is important. You have to be curious to see how to serve and to have a certain attitude in order to get passionate about something as well. So I think that's something that I also retain from your answer. Now I turn to Tadeusz on Zoom. Tadeusz, you are a veteran of World Youth Day. You've been at World Youth Day 7 times. You're married with 3 kids. You're a former NATO expert as well. And now you turn to the cultural arts field. You produced recently a movie about Cardinal Wyszynski that was also used for his beatification. And I will ask, before asking you this, the question, I will ask the technical team to just show us the movie, if possible. Before. Tadeusz, please.
Yeah, first of all, it's nice to be here because somehow I feel that I'm over there in Lisbon. Greetings from my office, from the center of Warsaw. And to be honest, I need to go to the confession because I'm not over there. How can, do we have someone from Poland over there?
Poland, yes, we have someone from Poland. Yes. One.
What kind of nation we have over there? What kind of nation? Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, who is from Europe? Let's do it like this, otherwise it's going to take too long. Who is from Europe? Okay, well, we have a lot of people from Europe. Who is not from Europe? Oh, where are you from? Chile? Chile. Okay, we have a representation of Chile. Then in the back, Ghana. Okay, and there was someone else. No, all EU. Okay, well, Europe. Okay.
So good afternoon, all, and it's good to know our listeners. And as I mentioned, it's a very important meeting for me because it's not only the topic, it's not only the let's say the question how to serve people, and I think it's a great answer of Madame Pereira concerning how to serve people, and I think that this is also the mission of normal people like me. And you asked me why I transferred, let's say, to the production business, because it was exactly the same questions, how to serve people in a modern way, and let's say according to the gospel. As you mentioned at the very beginning, I'm somehow a veteran of the World Youth Day. My first World Youth Day started in 2000 with John Paul II when I was 16. And this is one of my, let's say, the most important moment in my Catholic life. As far as I remember, on Tor Vergata, when on the last meeting, on the last mass, there was more than 2 million young people from all around the world. And what John Paul II said, that simply we don't have a time. That simply we don't have a time to, let's say, to lose it. And somehow we need to go to the roofs of our houses and we need to spread the gospel because we don't have a time. Later on, he said something like this, which is one of my memo, that the future starts today, not tomorrow. And if you combine all of those things, which came to my life after the World Youth Day in Sydney, I started to work in NATO. It was a beautiful job for me. Excellent Solaris, let's say, amazing people from all around the world. But I had my question in my head and in my inside of my heart. Is that a good way for me to serve people? Or should I leave it and should I join, let's say, area which is the best for me? I mean, my homeland. And I decided to quote the job in NATO, and I moved to Warsaw from the base, military base, and I moved to Warsaw and I start, let's say, working in the media and film industry. Right now we are working on the new movie, but shortly you will see the trailer of the Wyszyński Revenge or Forgiveness movie. And you need to know one thing. Today we have the 3rd of August, and this is exactly the birthday of the Wyszyński. He was born in 1901 in Warsaw, in Zuela, which is around 200 kilometers from Warsaw. So we celebrate today his birthday, and it's a unique moment for me, to present you this trailer, which will tell you the story about the military chaplain from the Warsaw Uprising, so the very critical moment in the Polish history from the World War II. So Emilio, if you can present right now.
Thank you so much, Tadeusz. Please, I ask the technical team to put on the movie, to show it.
We don't have
Herr
sound.
Offizier, bitte, lassen Sie diese Menschen in Frieden.
Schnauze!
An die Wand mit denen!
Wymarsz za godzinę. Hasło na dziś wieczór Wisła. Odzew wola. Jeszcze jedno. Do naszego oddziału dołączył niedawno ksiądz porucznik Wyszyński.
Panowie, ja nie będę przedłużał. To dla mnie zaszczyt służyć ojczyźnie w waszych szeregach. Warto się o nim myśleć. Niech Bóg prowadzi nas w boju.
Nasi uderzyli w Warszawie.
Przedstawiają odbiór większy niż myśleliśmy.
Mówi się o masowych rozstrzeliwaniach, o egzekucjach.
Wiem i zadaję sobie pytanie, jak my powinniśmy postępować wobec nich. Podobnie? Oko za oko. Pragniecie wolności, a jako naród polski mamy do niej całkowite prawo. Hast du getötet? Ja, ale Auder, bereust du es? Was bereuen? Nie możemy się poddać. A już sama myśl o tym jest naszym największym zwycięstwem.
Meister, versteckst du hier jemanden?
Czeka cię największa walka. Walka o właściwy wybór. Zemsta czy przebaczenie. Co wybierzesz?
Thank you so much. I think, Tadeusz, let's leave it here, and then later you will explain us a bit more about the movie, okay? But thank you, first of all, for sending the clip. I think it's a great addition to see how the movie came up to be. I will turn now to Isabel. Isabel from Portugal. You're president of the Portuguese Federation of Food Banks Against Hunger, and also that of Lisbon. You have been president of the European Federation in Brussels, the FEBA, for 5 years as well. And you've always been involved in the creation of non-profit, in the new model. We've been at your food bank this morning with some people, and it's amazing how this all came to be. But could you tell us how your experience in the church maybe led you to become president of the food banks, and how it led you to create such a system in Portugal?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. As Emilio said, I am a volunteer at the food banks, and maybe you don't know, but Portuguese food banks help feeding 4% of Portuguese population. And when I started being volunteer, I had 11. And my parents thought that it's good for education to have some volunteer work. During our summertime, we have very long holidays in summer here in Portugal. We still do, even if they are not so long. But since I was 12, I was a volunteer at an hospital, Parede, playing with the children that were going to have surgeries. And so I continued all my life long. I had always volunteer work. And I lived in Brussels for 8 years. I work in one of the institutions of European Community. And even though I distributed food at night to old people, homeless people, or not homeless, and when I decided to come back to Portugal, I decided to stay with my 3 child at that time. Now we have 5 children and 6 little children now. And so I went to food bank. That was a very little thing, and Flip is here and he remembers surely. And I thought that I could do something with my skills. And what I do the best is to organize. And what is not good for me, what I can't accept, is the losses that we have in our society. And when we talk about food losses and food waste, just for commercial reasons, it's something that is not, I think that it's so unfair, and we had not the notion at that time about the impacts on the planet, the environmental impacts of food waste. And I don't know if you have these numbers, but 1/3 of everything that is produced goes to waste. 1/3. And so what I thought at that time when I arrived at Food Bank, I had 30 years, and I thought 32, and I thought that maybe I could suggest something to build a model that could be more efficient and organized, that could be duplicated not only in Portugal but also in Europe. And so I conceived the model of management that is now used in several food banks, and I must tell you that also in Kiev I helped creating the food bank, also in Angola, in Cape Verde, in South Africa. And so what I think is that when we believe, we can change the world. When we really believe, we can take others with us, mobilizing in a project, in little projects, big projects, whatever. Family projects, but we can have impact in community. And when we believe that the resources are scarce and we have not the right to spare them, I think that what is, for me, is the most important. And so, for this Youth Day, we organized also a collection or a campaign about food waste. And I can share with you, if Emilio wants to do to put the link. We have a campaign all along these days here in Lisbon to talk about food waste, because food waste is something that is not acceptable. And so I think that for me, the education that my parents transmitted and that I tried to transmit to my own children is very important, but not only the education. It's also what you have in you. What you cannot think it's just, it's unfair, or what your conscience cannot admit. And in my conscience, I cannot admit that we spare nothing, not even love. And in these days, when we all run a lot, when we have our phones or our other technologic devices, we spare so much just because we don't have time to look. And so I would say that this willing to look and to see around us really is something that moved me to do what I do now.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Education is a word that I like a lot as well. Education and what we receive and what you have inside that brings to develop some skills and some interest, curiosity also in what you want to do and later in life, and as a vocation. So I will turn to the fourth speaker of today, Carlos. You went through different professions in your career. Some of them led you to work for the digital sector, the private sector, but also some of them have also a more social aspect. So can you please tell us more about this and what made you so that you're now working at Critical Software in Coimbra?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm very happy to be here also, as the ladies and the gentlemen before me have said. And I think this is really contagious, as Lydia was saying, because when you arrive here, of course, in the previous week, we have already had some experience of that in the dioceses, in the days before. So it's really good to be here. And for me, it's really a privilege to be sharing with you. I think I'm already receiving a lot. So, yeah, I was listening to you, thinking, what am I doing here? Because, like I working in a software company, and I think it's the first temptation that we have when we think that I'm not in the right place. So, I think this was my search for all my life. I've left some jobs that I didn't fit because conscious issues. There were some options that I made along the way, and as I am a musician, I've studied management. Actually, I started studying accountancy because I'm a member of this order. Yeah, even though I'm not an accountant, but I'm probably one of these shares is paid with my I don't know how to say it in English. Just got this. Yeah, I pay. I'm a paid member. Yeah, I'm a paying member. Yeah. But I studied management, and I was always searching for the right place to be. And also, I am a musician, so I have this kind of two ways of looking at my profession, because I always tended at the tendency to go to the more creative side, which is not very good at management. Even you are called not to be too much of a creative person, but. Then I was searching that, and I started working on technology on the financial side, on management side, and then leadership. And when I got to have the possibility, what attracted me in Critical Software, which still does today, is that the motto that the company has, which is we build a better and safer world. So, and this is also what I want. So. Of course, we do software. Probably you don't know, but most of the planes that we are flying here in Europe and abroad in other countries have software from Critical Software. From things as the toilet, that is because it's very curious, because there is a safety critical software is a software that when it fails, people die. So you know that when you are on a plane, if you want to go to the toilet, there is that mechanism works with a vacuum, the pressure, the lack of pressure in the cabin. So if that goes wrong, it can depressurize the cabin. So it's a danger for all that. So yeah, don't go to the toilet. But also, there no, you can go. It's safe. I can guarantee. I think. But also, if it doesn't work, the plane has to land, because without toilet we cannot be on the air. Yeah, because it's messy, I think. So from these little things that are little but can also protect lives from other things, as the election system here in Portugal, which is run by Critical Software. So at 8 o'clock every Sunday when there is elections, that we have a team very anxious to see if everything works. So all of these mission critical and safety critical projects attracted me, and of course the environment in the company, which is very informal, and we are always with a very social responsibility focused activities. So that's why I think in a short sentence is that, of course, for me it was always, where can I live my faith, what I believe in, without having to be twisted, you know? It's where can I be myself? I think this is the right expression. So I think that the major calling when you are getting to a job is, I want to be me. I want to be me fully. I don't have to be, we are not, I don't know if you have noticed, but we are just one, okay? So sometimes you see, I'm one at work, I'm one at home, I'm one at the community, at the church. No, that is not true. You are just one person in every place. So you take out from your pocket the best that you have in each situation. So I think that is what I seek all along my life. So to be the best I can be in every moment. So that's why I've get to be in Critical Software.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, thank you very much. Also to explain how planes, planes functioning. Lydia, we talked about conscience a lot. It was mentioned also by the other speakers. And I mean, a political career is very complex. There are decisions to be taken in politics that are not easy. My question to you is, how do you deal with these decisions? How do you deal with challenging decisions that touch on your values, on your conscience, and also on your faith, on what you believe in? Can you make examples or explain to us? The microphone is there. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that I truly believe, and I've been advocating for, is that the policies we develop in the European Parliament, in the Parliament, politics in general, they have to have the person at the center. We are serving people, and the purpose of this service is the people, is the person, and it's how the church defines it. Not defines. The social doctrine of the church is very clear on the importance, or the central importance of the dignity of the human person. So this is how we basically, or how I steer the wheel when we have to take decisions, when we have to develop public policies. It's with the person at the center. But obviously we are confronted nowadays in an increasing complex environment. We have, if we compare to 100 years ago, today we are dealing with topics such as climate change, such as the decline of the acceptance of democracies, right? The rates of approval of democracies are at their lowest levels. So it's a very complex environment with which we have to deal with. So this increases the responsibility of the people that are in leadership positions, and that they have to acknowledge every single day to whom they are working for. So this is one thing that I think it is relevant to share with you. Another one is that I can give you an example where Christian values were somehow consciously or unconsciously at the basis of a certain decision in the past. I'm not going to give you a lot of details, but it was a very difficult situation in one organization. We were a team. There was the suspicion of some wrongdoing. And at the time, we had to decide, well, are we going to take action, or are we going to be complices of a certain wrongdoing? And I decided to take action. So myself and a couple of other colleagues, we decided, like, we are not going to be accomplices of this situation. And what drove us in this is somehow summarized in the Beatitudes from Cardinal Vantuan. And if you don't mind, I will read them because I think they are quite they are self-explanatory of our work as politicians, and not forgetting the sense for common good and to whom we are serving. Blessed be the politician with a lofty sense and deep understanding of his role. Blessed be the politician who personally exemplifies credibility. Blessed be the politician who works for the common good and not in his or her own interest. Blessed be the politician who remains consistent. Blessed be the politician who works for unity. Blessed be the politician who works to accomplish radical change. Blessed be the politician who is capable of listening. Blessed be the politician who is without fear. And so I think this, in a nutshell, summarizes what are sometimes the importance of the Christian values in the political decision-making, in particular in my own.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The Beatitudes are summing up, summarizing very well also the mission that politics is given and that we should pursue. Tadeusz, I turn to you with a double question. First of all, if you can just briefly explain to us why you decided to dedicate this movie to Wyszynski, to Cardinal Wyszynski. And secondly, you say that your family was also part of it, or that you are seeing a very strong relationship between family and your career in the artistic cultural sector. So can you briefly tell us about this? I invite all the speakers to be a bit shorter so that we can go into the Q&A a bit faster. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do my best to answer your questions in 3 minutes. So first of all, if I can add something more to what Madame Pereira said concerning the decision in our daily life, how we should deal with that, which should be important for our listeners. If I can add something based on my experience, that there is no, let's say, strong decision, I mean important decision in my life without the Holy Mass, without the, let's say, confession, without the thinking what is good for me, and then as a second step is the ethic or moral aspects of that decision. So if I can advise you, because probably most of you will have shortly many decisions concerning your vocation, concerning your mission, concerning your boyfriend, girlfriend, and let's say future career, that it's always good to pray during the Holy Mass. Going back to your questions and going to the details, I didn't, let's say, dedicate that movie to Wyszynski strictly. It's a movie about Wyszynski, but at the end of the movie, I decided to dedicate that movie to the current and to the future priest. And believe me, many haters all around Europe, they start, let's say, pushing me because of that. And I had many problems because of that dedication. But I said, nobody made that before, that we need to dedicate to the priests, because we're missing priests in Europe right now. And this is our current problem. because we can create even like World Youth Day, Teze, and many others, but without the priest, we'll do nothing. And concerning back to your topic, why I made the movie about Wyszynski, because in the early 60s in Warsaw, when my father was 16, he came to Warsaw with a group of 100 young guys, altar boys from Bydgoszcz, from my homeland, and they met Wyszynski. And in my homeland, there is a picture of the Wyszynski and my father, and Wyszynski is hanging with my father together, and he said to him, "Be always close to the good priests." And later on, I watched during my whole life how my father, lived with that sentence. And when it came to the beatification of the Wyszynski in 2019, when the Cardinal Kazimierz Nitz, so the Archbishop of Warsaw, he decided to make a beatification of the Wyszynski, I asked myself why Wyszynski was so powerful. And I started reading the book about him, and I found sometimes in the previous years the day-by-day history, but when it came to the World War II, there was 2 pages in a 300, 400 pages book. And later on, I take his memories from the World War II, and I read the sentence that the World War II create his character, that the Warsaw Uprising create his character. So I asked myself, okay, if he's writing like that, why we don't have this chapter in his official biography? So I start searching, and I found out what I find out. So that's the reason why I make that movie. So I think that I respond to your question number 1, and could you remind me the question number 2, please?
The family question, sort of about your family and how they were involved, or how you combine your...
To be honest, it's the biggest logistic of my life, to working around 22 hours per day with more than 400 people on the movie plan, to have 3 children right now, and to have lots of expectation from my wife. But to be honest, I think that this is the part of the vocation, and you need to respond in your life what you want to do. And I met my wife after the World Youth Day in Krakow on the 1st of August. Actually, 2 days ago, we celebrate the 7th years of our anniversary when we met after the World Youth Day in Krakow in 2016. And I knew it from the first moment that she would be my wife. Of course, she didn't expect that I would, let's say, marry her. But this is how it works. You need to be very brave in your life. It doesn't matter what you are doing. If you are a politic, a manager, if you are the president of the bank, if you are an archbishop, cardinal, it doesn't matter. We need to be very brave in our daily life, and we can not forget about our source of the faith. So we cannot forget about the gospel. And this is something which is, let's say, there is nothing more important like that. Finito.
Finito. Thank you. Thank you, Tadeusz.
Thank you very much.
To you, Isabel. It's really in serving, as we have said before, that one can really bring Christ and witness Christ and be a testimony of Christ in the community, in the social environment they are present in. And volunteering, or the work that you do, is really very much concrete in serving the other, serving the people that are poor, the people that do not have enough food, and contributing to the environment as well, so that no food is wasted. How does God come into play in these very concrete moments in your daily work?
Well, I think that if God wasn't there, nothing that of what we do had sense. Because at Food Bank we work for poor people, but with poor people. And it's not so easy as to work in a company where you can choose your colleagues. We must understand, and we must accept to do the best we can with the colleagues that God sent us. And we have so many persons that whose lives changed just because they worked in a charity, because they felt something special about working for others with love. And that makes us different, and that is a great responsibility, sharing love. And for me, God is love. And at Food Bank, I know that if we can spread that love, we can change the communities and we can change the societies. I don't know how many of you are Portuguese.
How many?
How many are Portuguese?
Portuguese.
And so I'm sure that, and you also, and Lydia, but and myself, but I'm sure that all the Portuguese know Banco Alimentar. Do you know Banco Alimentar? Do you know Banco Alimentar? All the Portuguese today know Banco Alimentar. But when I go to a school or a university and talk to young people, I ask them if they had any experiencing about volunteering, and at least 80% of them had experienced food banking volunteering. It's true. And so when we get to share this capacity of spreading the world, and in this case, for us, it's spreading the capacity of working with love in service for others that don't have the same means and the same opportunities. But when we do it with love, we can do it. And if God was not there, I could not have the courage to be brave, as you said, because it's much more easier to do it with those you can choose, but it's harder to do it with those that God sends you. And that requires a lot of patience, a lot of love, and also we must not never forget that we are there for Christ. If not, we couldn't be there.
Thank you, Isabel. Yes. The hard thing to... to you, Carlos, you were asked at a certain moment in your career to work in the social sector, and you became executive director at Caritas Coimbra. Caritas Coimbra, I don't know, sorry, my Portuguese is totally zero. So you were working somewhere else before, then you came back to the sector you're now, your company. What made you say yes to this opportunity for 1 year? And can you already tell us maybe what one thing that you, let's say, thought it was the most meaningful thing that you learned from this experience?
Yeah, this was kind of the invitations that you don't expect, because Caritas Coimbra is very big, has like 1,000 workers, 1,000 people working throughout all the dioceses. Is very big. I didn't have quite the notion at that time, so when I started, when our bishop invited me to be there, so I started understanding that was a very big challenge. So it was not easy decision for me because of this. Also, not only changing for what I was doing, but also because it was a very big challenge professionally also. But so eventually I said yes after some praying and some talking with several persons and trying to see if that was the right path. But what made me actually was what we are talking about. It's just about serving others. I think it's what's been pushing me around all my career, and that was the perfect fit for me. That's how I can be on management, on leadership, but in this context, in this social context, and trying to put my life in service of others. So that was the main reason. Of course, with a lot of things inside, well, very afraid of what could happen, if I could do it or not. But I was there for a bit more than 1 year, a year and a half, more or less. But the thing that I brought was to get to know. I've met every person that works there, the 1,000 people. I've went through every service. It was amazing to know all of these people. You know that they are not well paid. You know that this is a very serious issue in the social sector in Portugal, which is not valued by our society. That those people are completely silent. We don't hear about them only when it doesn't work, right? When they are not there, but they are taking care of our poorest, of our elderly, of our children that the fathers and the mothers cannot take care of them. So a lot of brave people with a lot of faith, a lot of strength, even physical strength, and a lot of hope in the world. It was really, really amazing for me to have to know, to have the possibility to know all of these people, and that is my main takeaway.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Yeah. Now, I think many of the questions that I have been already answered. So I would turn then to the audience. So we want to hear from you also. If you have questions to our panelists here, they have already explained a bit what they do and what is at the base of what they do in their life decisions and in their work profession. So Katia has the microphone down there and she can pass it on. Okay, so when you ask a question, you say your name and where you come from, and then you ask the question.
Hello to everyone. Thank you very much for everything. My name is Quentin from France. So my question is for Lydia at the European Parliament. So I'm a young elected politician at the EU Committee of the Regions in France, and I'm from rural territories. I work for the leader approach. I don't know if it's a bottom-up approach and everything. So as a Catholic Christian, how do you work on, how do you live as a Christian at the European Parliament with other colleagues? How you can promote the Christianity values and brotherhood? So it's my first question. And my second question is as a European Portuguese. Do you stand as Pope Francis for the European federalism? Because Pope Francis said we need a federal Europe to save migrants. So do you stand for it as some of your colleagues, MEPs of EPP, are federalists? So it's my second question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quentin. Okay. I will collect maybe another question and then yes, please, in the back.
Hello, my name is Theo. I come from France. I had a question for the MEP as well. The general European culture, at least the stereotype, is that everything ends into a consensus on the European level, and on the other end, there is the national level, which seems a bit more aggressive or conflictive. Would you agree with that? And do you think the European level of politics is a better level to do politics in that type of brotherhood and peace promoted by the gospel? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think one more, yes? Oh, yeah, sorry, there, please.
Thank you, Jean-Louis from Belgium. I have a question. Do you consider secularization, which is a sociological fact, as a threat or an opportunity for the Christians?
Is this a question to all the panelists?
Yeah,
to all.
Who wants to answer? Yeah.
Exactly, we can share. Lydia said we can share. It's very good. So I have very political questions. Very engaged French and Belgian participants today. So how to promote Christianity also at the political level? Federalism, is it something to wish for or not? And the question on consensus, is the EU level the best level to address some issues or not? And the question on secularization. So I will start with Lydia, because she, let's say, is a representative in this case of the political world, but I then will ask also for the opinion of the others, okay? Please, Lydia.
Thank you. I will focus on the two first questions, and then perhaps we can have a dialogue on the third one. Maybe it is better. On how do we or how do I work and spread the Christian values? I mean, it is basically how we are in life. It is basically apply what we learn from the gospel, from the word of Jesus, from the legacy of Jesus, in applying it in our daily work. I cannot give you a specific example, but taking Europe and maybe connecting to the second question related to the consensus. One thing that defines Europe is this idea of compromise. But to agree on a compromise, it means that we have to have a dialogue, and we have to meet each other halfway. We have to concede in certain things, we have to insist on others. And I think it is a little bit this dialogue, which is basically our flexibility, our capacity of listening to the other side, that I think it's quite relevant. That is something that we learn as well from the Christian values, and that we concretely can use on my work as a politician. Now, specifically about the federalism, I understand the question, but my answer is that we need federal answers. We don't necessarily need a federal Europe. We have to see that it is a very complex environment, the European Union. We are talking about 27, we used to be 28. 27 leaders sitting at a table trying to get to that agreement, to that compromise. And I think what we cannot neglect is the objective, is not losing track of who we are, and who we are is based on the Judeo-Christian values. This is, when we talk about European values, those are the Judeo-Christian values. And if we talk about migration, we cannot leave knowing that there's people dying in the Mediterranean Sea or in any other locations trying to cross the borders, trying to find a better life, trying to escape war, looking for comfort. And Europe is that sense or that idea of comfort. So we need to look for federal responses. I don't necessarily think that we need a federal Europe to achieve those federal answers. Last but not least, more specifically about the consensus, if the European approach is better than the national approach. There are different approaches. And there's one critique that I must do, is that the national leaders, the prime ministers, the presidents of the countries, of the nations of Europe, they tend always to take credit of the good things that Europe achieves, and then to externalize when things, or to hold the European Union responsible when something does not go in the way that they wished or they thought they worked for. And so I think this is, the European Union is a lot of balances, of trying to find the best balance with so many different national interests. It is a hard exercise. I don't know, I cannot say that is the best. There are certainly good things about that. There's less positive things about it. For example, the scrutiny of the European politics is less than the one that we observe in the national politics. We turn on the TV, and every day in the news at 8 o'clock, we know that the Prime Minister or the MPs of the National Assemblies, they will be providing declarations about a certain topic. But we are not sure whether we're going to find a European politician, the President of the European Commission, the President of the European Parliament, or any other random, like me, member of the European Parliament giving a declaration, a statement about a specific topic. So this level of scrutiny is different, which in a way, for a transparency perspective is not so good, because people are not so aware of what is going on. But on the other hand, it gives us space to, during the legislative process, work with so many stakeholders to whom a certain piece of legislation is going to be impactful, which is the other side of the coin that I think it's somehow positive. So I think national and European level, there are different things. There are good things about some of them, not so good ones about the others. I would say the level of scrutiny, if I could choose, should be higher. There should be more visibility about what happens in Brussels and in Strasbourg, because the figures in Portugal are that 70%, more or less, 70% of the national legislation comes from European legislation, which is an outstanding number. And so people should be a bit more focused, or they should be more informed about what is happening at the European level and how it impacts their daily lives.
Thank you, Lydia. To maybe Tadeusz, do you have anything to comment on this, especially the fact that the aspect, dimension of dialogue that Lydia mentioned? How do we foster this dialogue, also through the arts and the culture, which is what you're trying to do?
You know, I'm asking that question every day when I wake up from my bed, you know, and it's not easy. But just going back a little bit back and answering the question about the secularization. Yes, it's happening. And what I will say right now is very strong. This is our fault. The secularization is our fault. I mean the laity and the priest and the bishop. Which means that sometimes we are very passive and we need to be very active. This creates the dialogue. This creates everything. And how it will be in the future depends on you, on those who are sitting over there. That one person can change the world. One person can change the environment at the school, at the university, at his job, and so on. So if you want to do something, first of all, you need to be strong, because there's no chance to start nothing. I mean, the basic dialogue in your daily life without, you know, sacraments. And maybe this is deep what I'm saying, but without this one, no chance. And I would tell you how it looks like with the Wyszynski movie. It was so hard because I started shooting that movie at the beginning of pandemic. When I asked many people about help with the money, with equipment and so on, everyone told me, Tadeusz, are you stupid? We have right now more serious problems, like to create the movie about the Wyszynski. Who doesn't care about Wyszynski? Come on, man. We're thinking how to save our businesses. We don't need right now the movie. And I start praying to Wyszynski in a very simple way. If you put me in that movie, now you help me to finish it. We got the movie. We got the movie. And later on, of course, the same guys, which they refused to help me, they came to me and said, Tadeusz, respect, you finished that, we want to cooperate with you. What we can do? This is the real example how to deal with the dialogue. And I think that as a Christian person, you always need to be very open. This is the first thing. How to create a dialogue in the modern world. For example, in my business, it's very hard. I will tell you the next example. One of the biggest, to be honest, the biggest streaming portal, I will not mention the name because everyone probably knows here what I'm thinking about. In their contract, have always one act, and it's very strict. if I'm a producer and I want to deal with them and I'm supposed to create a film for them, in the contract there is a statement that I cannot watch more than 5 seconds into the, let's say, worker's eyes. Because then this person can tell this, let's say, streaming portal that it was a sexual abuse. Going back 5 years, I mean, in 2003, when I met John Paul II, he said, always look into the people's eye. Always. This is the basic dialogue. So how to behave if from the one side, as a Christian person, I'm hearing something like that from the Pope, and then in my daily life, I'm reading in the contract with this streaming platform something like that, that someone will say that this is the daily life, and this is the, let's say, your battlefield, how you need to deal, how you need to sometimes act in front of those, let's say, regulations. It's not easy because that was the topic also of my last movie, how we should love those who are killing us. And I will leave that question to you.
Yes. Thank you. Isabel, do you have remarks on the questions that have been... Are there further questions in the meantime that... Oh, we have... Okay, so let's take them, and then we can reply to them simultaneously. Please.
Okay. Hello, my name is Klaas from Belgium. I have a more of a personal question. The art director already touched upon it a little bit. I have a question regarding what's the place of prayer and silence in your lives. I imagine you have very busy lives, and I was wondering how does prayer and silence and ascesis add value to your lives, to your working lives, your professional lives, your family lives, in every aspect. More of a personal question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes? Next one.
Hello, I'm Ruben, also from Belgium. I think technology is very important and it needs to keep evolving, yet it is a very polluting and harmful industry to the earth as well. How do you go about with this tension, and how do you think about this in your daily life and your practices of your industry?
Super, thank you so much. So I think these two are very good questions also for the last two speakers, but then we'll leave the possibility to the others. Oh, sorry, there is another one. Oh, apologies. Oh, no, another two. Okay. Guys, we will have to see the popes sooner or later, right?
Yeah,
No,
rather sooner than later.
Go ahead.
I have a question
What's
on
your
Miss
name?
Isabel.
Sorry?
My name is Matej. I'm from Slovakia. And I would like to ask, how do you find the energy and the funding to run such a huge organization? Because if I counted correctly, it's 400,000 people that you feed, or at least partially. So yeah, I was wondering, how do you manage to do that? Thank you.
Super. So a question mostly for Isabel, I believe, and then the last one there in the middle.
Hi, my name is Leonard. I'm also from Portugal. I was sort of wondering, also a more personal question, if you could show a sort of an insight on how you overcome the struggle that I imagine all of us have with sort of daily tasks, or I mean maybe with bigger tasks, in keeping the right definition of good in mind, so that the definition of good from God and not the one that might benefit us, or where we think in our own opinion these people deserve it more than other people. So very much like in the movie with Wyszynski, I hope I said the name correctly, revenge possibly for him was much better personally, but then forgiveness overall is better, like the true good. How do you, for example, Ms. Pereira was listing several things that should be implemented. How do you implement it, especially on the days when you struggle, reminding yourself the right definition of the good? How do you push through that struggle? I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much. So I would go on with Isabel on the questions that pertain to her most, and then to Carlos, and then a quick comments, please.
Okay, so food banks live just on donations. So I must tell you that is because we have built trust in Portugal. And we live just on donations. Donations of food and financier donations, little donations. But I think that almost all Portuguese know food bank and know exactly what we do and how we do. So I would say that is trust and accountability. We show every day what we do with the donations that we get. So that is how we finance. We don't have financing from state. We don't sell, and we don't get money from public entities, not from church, just donations. And so if we have some moments of silence, how we manage to have moments of silence, I think that that is absolutely crucial. I am from a big family. My mother has got 28 little children and 39 little children. So it's I am from a very busy family, and busy in noisy family. Every day and at all moment there is someone that is shouting, crying, singing, demanding. And if you cannot manage to do silence inside yourself, you cannot survive. If you are very tired, and tired is not just physically tired, if you are mentally tired, you cannot walk. There is a Jesuit in Portugal that has got a book, or that has got a motto that says, if you don't rest, you cannot go further. And so I think that the moments of silence is, we must have them, but we must do that silence inside ourselves. And I tell you that when I pray, I pray every day, but mostly my prayers are silence, moments of silence, and the moments of just appreciating what nature give us, and in nature I put all the persons that are around me. So that is my silence. Agora o resto é para si.
Thank you, Isabel. Carlos.
Yeah, I would like to. Yeah, no, I've taken some notes because I think there are very, very good questions. I don't know what you think about, but I would like to join two questions to try to answer together: the secularism that was asking, and also the tech question, because I think they are the problem is the same. It's my perspective, okay? It's my opinion. So I think the Holy Father was saying today in the morning. It was asking us to replace fears by dreams. And I think this is a very, very good way to put it. And we have, I think that secularism comes, it's like you cannot stop it. It's like trying to stop a wave. It will happen, it's happening, it will happen. So the way is, how do we deal with that? And the first reaction is fear. We are afraid they are going to take us things, and I think a Christian, one thing, love takes fear out. Now, Jesus tells us. So it's antagonic. I don't know if say it like this. Antagonic. Fear and love cannot be together. So if you are afraid, probably there's an experience of God's love that you need to do further. Okay. So I think that is one of the first steps. For me, it's clearly an opportunity. And also on the tech side, you can say technology has a lot of problems. Of course, there are a lot of problems, also hunger, it's more serious problems. But we have to choose. Do you want to be in the new world that is, we are talking about artificial intelligence a lot, for instance. Do you want to be part of the things that we are going to do, we are already doing with that, or do you want to be just an spectator and judging what's happening, or do you want to be part of that and help to what do we do with this technology? So my perspective is I want to be part of that. So, and also one of the things when we listen to Isabel is, how do we get to have a project like this? So what I've learned from, you have to start small, and be faithful in the small things is also from the gospel. Okay, Jesus tells us that if you are faithful in the small things, greater things will come. And Isabella was talking about this project, which is now big, but it started small. It always starts small. So if you want to change something, you have to be faithful in the little things. And when that happens, it gets bigger. I was talking about before, when the bishop comes and makes you an invitation like that, he said, how did I came to get in this place? So I didn't do anything. It seemed like but start small and be faithful in the small things. And then it grows and it comes bigger. And your impact on the surroundings starts to spread out. So if you have a positive effect on your surroundings, it will grow. It will grow. But you need to be faithful. You need to be faithful on what you believe. And just it was very interesting because I was seeing the trailer from the movie, and there were some sentences, and there was one that got my attention, which is an eye for an eye, which is from the Old Testament. And we use it a lot. If you do something to me, I will do the same, or worse. So this is, and Jesus abolished that. So, and sometimes we Christians need to be, it's not an eye for an eye. This is not our gospel. This is not what we need to do. We need to do more, to be of service, and to understand that sometimes we have to suffer because he suffered. So we will do more or less the same, even if it's not like that in a cross, but we will need to struggle. But when we are faithful in these little things, great things will happen, and the change will happen. We just have, also Pope Francis tell us a lot, get up and start moving, get out of the couch and start doing things and start moving. And just to finish, sorry, Emilio.
Go ahead.
For me, as a professional and also in my daily life, it's always about the other people. It's not about you. If you are thinking too much about yourself, probably it's also what Lydia was saying in Isabel. In other words, it's about other people. Even if you are in a management role, leadership role, in a high position, it doesn't matter. It's about the other people. It's not about you. If it's about you, somebody was asking about the definition of good. This is a key. If it's too much about you, it's probably not a good place to be in. So, of course, you are important. You are important, okay? But the others will tell you your importance. It's not you that you are going to be important, you know? The other guys will tell you. So it's about them. And finally, the place of prayer. Yeah, we are very busy, and I have just two. It was a big struggle because I thought God was calling me to do some things, but I didn't have the time to pray. So after a couple of years, a lot of years trying to find a way, I have two places, just two. Of course, sometimes we do retreats and something like that, which is very good, once a year or something like that, have a couple of days or a week or something like that to be at ease. But I have the shower. Nobody interrupts me when I'm in the shower. And when I commute to do work. So I have 20 minutes more or less to commute. So it's the time that I have. And sometimes, as Isabel was saying, it's just to be in silence. We don't need too much words at that time, but it's that. Thank you.
Yes.
I must add something.
Isabel.
I must tell you a personal story, very short.
Please.
When there was the crisis in 10 or 12 years ago, I decided to go to Greece. I don't speak Greek. And I decided to go to Greece to open a food bank. And I didn't know anyone in Greece. So I took a plane, I was in a hotel, and I met, I had one address and one phone. And with just one address and one phone number, that was from the footballer, the como é que se diz treinador de futebol? The coach of the Greek selection, and one phone number of one person that was a big entrepreneur. I mobilized almost all the society, and what I saw, all the Catholic, all the social aid was from Catholics, just because they believed they could do something different in Greece. And when I come back 5 days after, there was a team of persons that opened a food bank, and now there are 3 food banks, and you don't need to be there. You just have to trust that God is there with them, and that God has chosen you to be the instrument of faith and love. And that is very important, to believe that we can do something just because God is with us.
Thank you. I think that already leads us to the last remark that I want to ask to all of you, very briefly, in one sentence. I want to ask you, well, to Lydia, why should young people consider embarking on a political career, and what is the advice that you would give them, or what is the takeaway from today's conversation that you're saying, yes, this is something to follow?
Well, I think if you want to make an impact that matters, if you want to drive change, you can obviously go to politics, you can knock at the door. You don't even need to knock at the door of the political parties. You can start a movement, you can start something in social media, and you just have, the most difficult step is the first one, because the other ones will follow. Even though I think the first step is potentially the hardest, but the second is to find someone that is gonna be teaming up with you. And then the third and the fourth and the fifth people that will join you will be easier. But I think these 2 first steps are probably the most difficult. But the main or the bottom line is this one. If you want to drive change, if you want to make an impact that matters, engage in your community, engage with your colleagues at work, and do something good. Do something good, not for you, but in the end of the day will also be good for you, because you will feel better of the common good that you will deliver. So this is my main advice. And we have another thing, which is, like, we are younger, we are bolder, we are not so rigid as the older generations tend to become. We will eventually get there, because I mean, being young is something that will pass with time. But we have this capacity. We have this capacity of watching, of seeing with lenses that are more courageous, that have less experience. And because of that, we are not so afraid of taking risks. So as Pope Francis said today, and I think it was a beautiful line, be the entrepreneurs of dreams. This is what we have to have in mind. If we want to drive change, we can be entrepreneurs and dreams and deliver.
Super, thank you very much. Being entrepreneurs of dreams. Tadeusz, what's your main takeaway? The sentence you would tell the audience? One, huh? Just one. It's difficult, I know.
It will be one word.
One, oh, perfect.
Before I will say that, I need to go back to the 2016, Rome, April, 35 degrees. We have a big group from Poland, leading by, it was 2014, leading by Dominican friar, Father Jan Gura. so the founder of the Lednica meetings based on the World Youth Day. And we're very close to the Pope Benedict XVI. And we had a chance to talk to him. And I'm a witness of the conversation between Pope Benedict XVI and Father Jan Gura. And he's asking him one question. What I'm supposed to wish to the youth of World Youth Day. And Benedict XVI, he's responding immediately this one word. Courage. And that's what I want to wish all of you. It doesn't matter what are you doing. Courage, this is the basic things. To go to the church, then to make the decision, then to invite the girl for the date, to create a family, to become a businessman, whatever you do, my friends. Now make some noise for the Pope, say hello from me, and see you in Poland. Don't forget that everything starts here because of John Paul II. He created that event. And we cannot destroy whatever it happens in our Christian life. And last but not least,
I knew it was not one word.
Yeah. If you will ask me what is one of the main problems of the, let's say, active in the church, in the modern church, is the quality. Sorry for saying that, but I have 25 years experience in the acting in the church worldwide, and the basic problem is quality, poor quality in our daily things, in our activities. And this is the message to all of us, to the bishops, cardinals, archbishops, to the politicians, and to us as a young generation, the future generation. Whatever you do with the quality.
Thank you, Tadeusz. Thank you so much. Courage and quality. Isabel.
Okay, so I would say just one word is to engage. Engage in things, in causes that have sense. Sense because in the center of these causes there is the persons, people, and also the environment. And so engage. But really when you engage, take your friends with you. Be an example and take with courage your friends and your communities engaged.
Thank you, Isabel. An applause to her as well. Carlos.
Last week there was a vigil in our parish with the pilgrims that were there, and we were talking about that part of the gospel that says you cannot hide a city on the top of the hill, and that's the thing that I want to share, because we are not made to be hidden. You have to show, you have to appear, you have to act, you have to be of service where you are. You are not made to be hidden. We Christians have a mission, and the mission is to be of light to everybody. So the word is, for me, is serve. Serve everyone. Everyone. Not everybody needs to be served, from the Pope, the higher politicians, to the simple person that we can meet. We need to serve everybody.
Thank you, Carlos. Take the first steps with courage to serve. Take the first steps with someone else, and take them small, and then grow into your faith. I think that sums it up also a bit. I tried my best, I have to say. It's been 1 hour and a half already. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the audience for the great questions. Thank you to you. Yes, make an applause to yourself for the great questions you asked today. Thank you to our speakers, Lydia, Isabel, Tadeusz online, and then Carlos as well. Another round of applause. And then I want to thank once again our team at COMECE, Father Manuel and Katia, who is there, who passed the microphone and helped hugely to organize this event. An applause to her and to Father Manuel too. And the amazing COMECE Youth Net, the network of young people of COMECE. Some of them are present here today. Some of them contributed but couldn't come to World Youth Day, so an applause also to them. They are all spread in the room. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, now I think off we go to the ceremony, to the welcome ceremony. Huh? So go with haste and let's meet the Pope. Thank you so much.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you, Tadeusz. Bye.